show. Welcome, everybody. All right, let's jump into our recap. Um, okay. Last we met, the Wayward Five temporarily freed Scarlet from the tendrils of the Crimson Court Cirrus. A confused, bloody, and terrified Scarlet threw her corrupted dagger far away, its inky tendrils prying weakly towards her from the ground, desperate to be reunited with her. Wiswick quickly began investigating the odd corruption as the party gently questioned Scarlet about what had happened. The Cirrus sent her to assassinate Cal in an effort to begin killing her heart, as she said. She showed them a grotesque rose made of flesh behind the shed in the manor courtyard before she burned it, and told them that these roses allow the Crimson Court to travel freely where they need to go. She needed rest and submitted willingly to be watched just in case her mind slips away again. Wiswick cast flesh to stone on the substance corrupting her dagger. The petrified flesh would break off into dust as new ichor regenerated, and it would quickly petrify over and over. But now it could be easily transported. Kiran brought Scarlet to meet Ashk, the chained god, the trickster god that you have enthralled to your services, in his prison within the manor, mainly to question him about the Skaithfulum. He told them that the Feywild was the reward given to the Skaithfulum for helping the Wayward One, and he left them to feast upon its remains. He said they feed on souls and memories. Before he moved on, he began to sense, as he does, Scarlet's memories. Those who stay in close proximity to Ashk tend to have their memories read and observed and felt by Ashk. And he said that she reeked of a place. And he began talking about Ethromenos, a plane of the mind and soul led by a figure called the Mother. Ashk worried and contemplated that these Skaithfulum, if they were using this type of magic through Scarlet, had grown very powerful. He warned Scarlet that the gods are not very forgiving creatures for stealing and abusing these types of magics. She returned to say that she was not under her own will. Ashk seemed to not think that mattered. Elsewhere, Seraphil and Wiswick studied the dagger and learned the ichor was an extension of the living armor held within Scarlet, and that it manipulates the return enchantment she placed on the dagger to draw itself closer to her. They also researched the histories of the New Gwyn Empire to catch Seraphil up on his own country's history. It led through many years of growth and war and peace, and eventually to the current war between the Quintarchy and the Gwyn Empire, and the current state of their use of Lay Sanctum technology. Timber and Scarlet began to settle down for the evening at this point, as she showed him the chain bound to her collarbone that holds the souls she takes for the Cirrus. She fears to sleep, fearing what dreams may bring to her. So Timber offers a solution through the dream spell, and at least for tonight, he's able to gift Scarlet an evening of peace and true sleep. During this time, Kiran reaches out to his other godly network. He goes to the chapel to the Everflame, where he prays to Sandariel and attempts to cast a sending spell to her to question her about the murders that have been happening in the city lately, and whether the Pallid King had corrupted her or her followers in some way to commit these murders. He received no answer. He moved on to the White Raven or Mog to commune with her through the pendant he has. questioned her about the Scathefulum and Athromenos. She informs him the Scathefulum are a scourge with no head, a ravaging plague, and a threat to all, that the Wayward Ones' dealings with them left them just a horde of hungry creatures with no guiding force, no shepherd. In regards to Athromenos, she said it was not part of Hadric's plan, and that it was unknown to the gods at that time. To all but Ashk, she said, who she said once served this mother figure, otherwise sometimes called the matron of the dreaming fire. This infuriated Kiran, because it meant that Ashk had withheld information, directly contradicting the Gaius spell that enthralls him. He confronted the trickster god and learned he could not fully bind this god, that only a tenth of him was upon this material plane. And he learned that this is how gods increase their control over the material plane of existence, which normally you'd think was simply through prayer and followers, but every god seems to want and push to bring pieces of themselves into the material plane. Hearts, tendon, tissue, or a moon, he suggests, to expand their control within Aradun. And he finally goads him with saying that all alike, god and mortal, are just frightened children lost in the dark, seeking control. Kiran whips back, but he's not afraid of the dark. And as he leaves, questions Ashk, or asks him to contemplate what came first, mortals or the gods, before retiring for the evening. The next morning, the group gathered to begin helping Scarlet the best they could. And through some clever spell work, they did discover that there is an aberration at the base of her neck, some entity that was tethering her to the Cirrus, but that tether was broken right now, and it would require some time to heal, but that it would heal. Similarly, they plan to meet with Governor Clay later this afternoon. That's where we left off, in the morning hours of the first morning of... Oh, God, where are my months? Doesn't matter, but it matters to me. Of Arwood Gloam, the bitter shadow, the harshest month of the winter season.
Super duper winter.
Super duper winter. It is the morning you've just begun. You just finished the discovery session that you did with Scarlet. Now, it is probably around, I'd say, 8:30 in the morning. You have quite a bit of the morning and early afternoon before Oriel will return. He said he'd come by in early afternoon. And I imagine you're just all kind of sitting around in the dining area, having done this. But the day is yours, or at least the morning is yours. What would you like to do?
Morning, guys.
Morning, Musik. You want some bacon?
Sure. Chilly day, huh?
Yeah, let's say you guys are all eating breakfast now after having done the research on Scarlet's neck. There's bacon, there's whatever you want. You have a full reign of Oriel's kitchens.
I'm pushing it all around my plate with a fork.
Eat it, Scarlet. It'll make you feel better. This is meat candy. You see this? This is meat candy.
Does Oriel have pastries? What's a Durin pastry?
Durin pastry. Yeah, there's what'd you say?
Cinnabon.
Calzones.
Cinnabon.
You wouldn't find Cinnabuns here, but you would find some. Any pastries that he has are definitely like stale because no one really lives here right now.
Right.
So they would have been made and then kind of like forgotten about. You'd be able to find some Does anyone know what Zwiadels are?
Of course.
No.
Yeah, they're very, very delicious.
Also known
no-
as a lobster tail, if you've seen that in some pastry shops.
Oh,
They
yeah,
look
yeah,
like
yeah,
multiple
yeah, yeah.
shells on top of each other, and in
and they're
the
filled
center.
with like a
Oh,
delicious
yeah.
custard inside.
Today I learned.
There's some of those. You like look around and there's kind of like this semi kind of ice boxed area where you would find some of these. They're definitely like questionable how long they've been here, but they don't have any like rot or mold on them.
This fucking guy over here looking at me asking if I know what a fucking Sviatel is. Jesus.
And like
Look at
even
this shit.
things too, like you can
Is
find
like-
like some old muffins that are definitely stale and hard when you grab them. Some old bread, but no fresh pastries.
I guess it's just oatmeal. I guess it's just oat food.
Mostly oats? Do you want mostly oats?
No, I'd actually like a little more like actually a cream of wheat would be nice. Do you think he has any of that? Little
Yes.
cinnamon on top.
Yes, it's
If
in the
any
cabinet
of
on the
those-
second right.
No, you've really made yourself at home here, haven't you?
Oh yes.
Biswick, do you have Lily?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if any of those sweets are within 5 feet of me, the snake magic item that I have attuned to is gonna go after that shit.
Yeah, if you do you go into the kitchen with them while they're looking for the sweets?
Yeah, probably. I was enticed by the bacon accusation.
Yeah, I'd say there's a point when Kieran's kind of like looking at them, like checking these muffins to see if they're any good. And it's like a quiet moment where everyone's just sort of looking around, grabbing what they need, and suddenly it's just as rapid and terrifying as it always is. This magma snake just lurches out of Wiswick's hand towards you, Kieran, again, since you seem to always be the one holding the sweets when it comes out. And it just sort of lunges and just starts to rip the muffins out of your hand and just chews them like super fast. And you can see these like singed, burnt crumbs of the muffin coming down. And then you see it eats them and it swallows them. And then you see like a few seconds later, because and it starts to hack up some of the muffins because of how stale they were. And you just see these like magmic melted muffin bits that are just sort of like occasionally like a little fire comes out of it. It occasionally bursts into flame before kind of hardening down into just these little pieces of coal, essentially.
By
Are
the
you-
Everflame.
Biswick has like a little breeze going off out of his finger that's just like putting out the fires.
You kept it.
Yeah, it was actually kind of useful in getting you to calm down.
Is it okay if I wear it, or should I wait a little while? Probably should wait. I'll wait.
Wiswick's like, kind of just like tries to pet Lily, like, and like burns his finger a little bit, and then
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, maybe that's probably the best idea. She's really taken a liking to me, so I don't know. Change might not be the best idea for her right now.
You see Lily like immediately like is slithering into the pantry to look for more sweets. As you can see, like currently you can see it's starting to singe, and like the door catches on fire a little bit to the pantry as she's just sort of rifling through there.
Wiswick, take care of that thing, please.
There are
We
better
should
claws in
get it
there.
down.
Like this is our only stash of pastries. Vizik, come on.
Well, they're all a little old. I don't mean to be pretentious.
You hear
at all, but I
Lily
like
coughing
fresh.
up in the pantry again.
I don't think we could be picky in this time of month.
Fair point.
Anyway,
I just let the snake go and then like do whatever it wants, and I'm just like, I mean, what do you call a snake that bakes? A python. Get it? Python?
Oh, yes, I get it. Because it's like a pie's a type of base. And python's a type of snake in this world, yes? Okay, cool. Just wanted to check with the overload. I mean,
I just imagine Wiswick, you have to like continuously put all these fires out that are starting from this snake
Yeah,
writhing
I'm just
through.
like my morning has become maintenance of the kitchen.
How about
You're like
you?
the dog owner that's like the dog is dragging them, and you're just like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, like the dog is just like so spoiled. Like whatever it wants, I just give it.
Sounds familiar.
Oh boy.
Eventually, once Lily is sated and can't find any fresh pastries, she'll retract and vanish into the item.
Serathil will be finishing up his cream of wheat himself that he's enjoying with a little bit of cinnamon sprinkled on top because that does sound
The
pretty
two
good.
old men with their cream of wheat.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
As he kind of like wipes his mouth, he reaches into his pouch and pulls out the dagger that he was studying the night before, still wrapped in whatever cloth that it was on, puts it on the table, keeping his hand on it, and looking to Scarlet. I was up for a good portion of the night last night, and I was able to study this and learn a bit about its nature. I'm under the impression this item was always yours. You have some sort of connection to it.
I made it.
Well, the corruption that exists in it, it's drawn to you. It wants to return to you, and I'm afraid of what that might do.
I
And as
don't, want
far
I don't want to touch it at all.
I think we should keep this away from you for now, until we can remove this effect. But the
Is that-
curse itself is not sourced in the blade here. I'm afraid it's within you still.
Is there a way to remove it? Is there any hope of that?
I have a couple of spells that I could try, but I can't promise anything.
I didn't mean right now. Just
I think a little more
Eventually.
research might behoove us.
Don't worry, Scarlet. We're by this point, impossible's our specialty. We'll figure this out.
He is right. We removed a very complicated curse from an individual down in the fields of glass. Wiswick's magical prowess has only grown since last.
oh, that's wonderful.
We'll have you right as rain in note.
Yeah.
Would one of you want to hold on to this for her in the meantime?
I can put it in the bag of holding. Keep it safe. But always
Ron, don't touch it. Don't unwrap it. Whatever you do, just leave it, just as it is.
Huron very clearly sets the bag down, opens it, gingerly takes the dagger and gingerly places it in,
Mhm.
pats the bag out. It's safe now. With your hammer.
Yeah,
We'll
this
take
bag
care of
is
that as well.
this bag has become the bag of cursed items and
Oh, yeah.
bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, all my friends.
Yes, actually, I think Huron might actually mention that. He's like, oh, by the way, Serathil, I have your... were they all your companions?
Yes.
That's... well, it's kind of you, and of them, to offer themselves in death to the service of you and our goddess.
Well, I think we got some things we gotta discuss, guys. I mean, there's this cult business, but there was also those adventurers who came from the Highlands, right? I think that they're Serathil wanted to look into that. Is that right?
Yes, I do very much look forward to speaking to Governor Clay and catching up on possibly going to the Gwyn Empire myself to discuss what has happened over these past 1,000 years. But before that, to kill some time, I would like to see the 3 adventurers that did do that task for your apothecary friend, to see if there's any ailments or symptoms that they might have picked up from the magical radiation.
Yeah, that's pretty concerning to me too. The last thing we need right now is, more problems. Better to nip this one in the bud, I'd say. Why don't I come with you, sir? Though maybe we could split up, cover more ground.
I would appreciate it. Although I do recognize the area that I'm in, I'm afraid that the layouts of the city itself, I'm not quite sure. You seem to have been here before. Maybe you can point me in the direction of where your friend mentioned they would be.
I only walked around aimlessly once or twice. I might not be the best person for directions. It's not like I'm a local or anything, but
We could ask one of
try.
the many
And say,
servants of Oriel for directions, I'm sure. To
Yeah.
exactly where we need to go, because Raphael did tell you exactly where these adventurers were staying, did he not?
he did. He told us the name of the tavern.
Fantastic.
It was. I don't remember.
The Rebel
Oh my
Sea Dog
God.
Tavern.
The Rebel Sea Dog. Yes.
And as you say that, there would be a servant that walks in, carrying some wrapped up good, just sort of like a bundle of paper that's sort of tied together with yarn, but it looks very heavy. And they go up and they drop it on the table in front of you all, and you hear these. I was told by one of the castellans that you requested these manacles.
Oh, those are mine. Yes, thank you very much. Timur walks over and it just immediately unwraps whatever wrapping, and just inspects them.
Yes. If you need anything, I'm gonna go to the offices and then start tending to the grounds.
Real quick, would you happen to know where the Rascal Sea Dog, or what was it again?
Rebel.
It was the
Rebel-
Rebel Sea Dog Tavern.
The Rebel Sea Dog Tavern might be.
Oh, yeah, it's in the lower part of the city, down in the Septazar. You go through the main gates, and there's a drinkers' row street with all the taverns. A little rough area. It's not so much crime as much as you might get puked on in the streets. But these times of year, I mean, there are the drunk still, but they tend to thin out this time of year. Can't get too drunk in long dark. You end up sleeping in the snow and dying overnight. But yes, yeah. If you head down to the Septazar, if you get lost, ask one of the guards.
Fantastic, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Yes, I'll light the fires in the estate so you can be warm. This is kind of like shivering a bit, and he seems to have just woken up. Like he probably stays on the grounds.
After hearing this, Wiswick's gonna continue to search through the kitchen a little bit more to see if there's any like stale bread or something that he might.
Oh,
be
there's
able to
definitely
give
stale
away.
bread. There's definitely
Yeah.
stale bread. A lot of it, actually.
Awesome.
Hey, Vizek or Serathil, if you've got some time, could you just make sure that these manacles do what I requested? Identify them, maybe? You know, with your...
Because remind me of everything you requested of Oriel. I mean, you pretty much just requested them to be able to like magically bind.
Magically bind, inhibit teleportation.
Mm.
I wanted to include, I didn't explicitly say, but like planar travel or something like that, or just kind of magical effects leaving. Like unless you physically break out of them, you can't. Like yeah,
Okay.
inhibits magic use.
Got it.
Is there a sort of Sean like attunement to using these things, or would it be just something that like comes into effect as soon as you put them on?
They would be the kind of thing that, like, once they're locked is when the effect goes into place.
Okay. Is there like a key or some way to like get them off?
If you guys can open it up and take a look at them.
All right, I do so.
So what you'd find would be these thick thick manacles they're not like massive. What you can notice, they definitely can be like adjusted to fit several different size wrists, and he made them so that they could be quite large or quite small, because the crafter wasn't entirely sure what would be bound by them. You can see the chains come off, but they do not connect. The chains, almost kind of like Scarlet's chain that hangs off of her collarbone, the chains kind of turn to etherealness. But if you tried to move them apart, they would lock in place. And you would see that they're made of like a kind of, it looks like a blue metal almost. It has a very, very muted, like gray blue color to them, and they have like a sheen on them, almost as if they were polished. And as you're looking at them, like if you touch them, you would see they would react to your touch. Where your finger goes onto the actual wrist, you would see like a light almost appear on it, almost like a touchpad. And anywhere you move your finger across it, you would see like runes are drawn, or anything is kind of like drawn on there. And it fades away though after you pull your finger away, unless it's like what it needs to have on there. And there would be a little note card on there that would have a sigil, and it would just say on, and then another sigil that just says off. And it looks an awful lot like the on one is what is it? Oh, what is the symbol that is always on things in real life? It's just a circle with like a 1 through it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the power button.
Well, it's just a power button.
Yeah, it's got a power button. It literally has a power button. So yeah, you draw a sigil that is a circle and then a line through it for on, and then you draw just a plain circle to unlock them.
What you were gonna say was like the Wi-Fi at like Mars or something like that for off.
But yeah, that's basically how they work. You just need to clasp them down on someone. If they're on someone, like their hands cannot affect it. Like if they tried to like lean their hand over and move it, it wouldn't respond to them.
So, could I try just putting one of the two on, and then using my other hand to like unlock it and lock it?
If you put it on one arm, almost immediately the other one would fly out like a bat almost and clasp onto your other arm. And Wiswick, you're currently
run and make sure it's on.
Yeah, Huron, if you do that, Wiswick would immediately lock down on your arms, and you would feel an immediate disconnection from the weaves of magic. You would immediately feel completely nullified of any magic that you could potentially even cast. Cantrip, spell, it's all gone.
Damn.
Well.
And any
curiosity.
magic items you have on you also become muted and can't be used.
Took away your magic.
Wiswick just looks down at the thing and it's like, I think it's broken. Can you try hitting the button for me?
Oh, you can't touch it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, look, my hands are all tied up.
No, you should be able to. I'm sure you could finagle it. Or just use a spell to deactivate it. Can't you just, use some dispel magic?
I
Take it
try
off?
to unlock it with my tongue, Sean.
Nothing happens. You're just licking mysterious metal, and it tastes like it just tastes really carcinogenic.
I'm trying to take my shoe off with my cuffed hands at the moment, and like just not saying anything to anyone. Come on, like somebody just unlock it for me, please. Come on.
I'll take pity on him and I'll go push the button.
Okay.
I immediately retrieve the manacles. Okay, so they work. Okay, good. As they fall to the ground.
But yeah, they seem to work. Wiswick, you just felt that immediate nullification of all magic.
Thank you, Scarlet. But yeah, they definitely do work. I'm never touching those things again, though. Pretty lame, if you ask me.
And you would have actually also noticed, like, they changed size. Like, they magically changed size to fit Wiswick's wrists.
What did you get those for, Timber?
I got them for myself initially, but for when I wanted to talk to Lou, but I already talked to him, so it's just kind of an extra precaution, or just a tool, more like a tool, just another tool.
Okay. What would y'all like to do now?
If we're all set here, I
Yeah.
would begin heading to the tavern.
Who is going with him to the tavern?
I think Huron will join.
Huron,
I guess I'll come.
Timber.
Come on, Scarlet. Like old times, you know? Seeing the world.
You could use a drink, even though it's the morning.
I don't know that I should be out among people.
Please, Kaze over here had a corrupted Fey god within him for how many months, years, and everything was fine? We'll watch out for you, don't worry.
Yeah, if you're safe
Do you want to
anywhere,
wear
check
these?
out-
I can put these on you. Would you let you make you feel better? It's up to you.
It would. Actually.
Something you notice about them too is that if you don't turn them on and they're just clasped to the wrists, like you could freely move your arms. So like Scarlet could wear them and just have them ready to go if you needed to lock her down.
Here, and I'll put them on her. Now, whenever, or you start acting weird, we can just press this button right here, and yeah, we'll do what it did to Wiswick.
Right. If I stop holding my head or answering any questions that somebody didn't ask, that should be your sign.
Understood.
To the tavern
Okay.
we go.
So you leave the little kitchenette area, the dining area. You can see that servant is just kind of in the hallway, and he's just sort of stoking a fire in the grand entrance hall to start getting the manor established. You can tell like they haven't had to do this stuff for a while you haven't been here, and they've just been like his day to day was probably he just like got to like have a nice breakfast in the dining room and live his own life, and he's essentially like a baby, like a house sitter who was in like a mansion and no one was coming back for months, so he was just got used to that, and just tending to Cal. You step out into this hallway, and it's very cold in there now because they haven't gotten the fires going, and you immediately feel all of you, even those of you who have resistance to cold and resistance to and magmic blood, you feel just this breeze ushering in through the cracks in the door to the manor. And you can see underneath the door to the manor, like snow coming in from outside. And as you step to open it up, it's blinding at first because of the sun in the snow. Even with the muted sun, like it's still so bright with how much snow is everywhere. And you step out into the ferocious winds, and it's whipping snow all around, and it's almost like a fog, and you're pushing through what is at this point 3 feet of snow in the courtyard that was not there yesterday. Like there was snow in the courtyard, but it had been moved around, swept away. There was a path. And as you're doing this, I imagine you're kind of like covering your face a little bit, and you step forward, and Curon. I mean, what's the marching order actually?
I'll be leading the way.
Okay.
I'll be in the middle.
I'll be in the back, probably not even paying too much attention, like giving. out
Mostly just need to know who's up front.
Huron would
Yes.
be behind Sereth.
Serathil, you step and you feel your foot go through the snow and onto something fleshy, and it almost like is crushed under your foot, and you can see kind of splattering up into the snow is blood.
Kind of like back up a bit. What in the world?
Ugh.
And as you
Like,
do
hold on.
this, you kind of look up, because you were kind of guarding yourself from the wind, and you can see a shape through the snow that's about 10 feet in front of you. Tall and hanging from...
Does somebody have a lantern or a light? Oh, it's a corpse.
I'll produce flame for you.
It's reaching through a little bit, and you can see, because it's not really darkness that's obscuring your vision, it's the snow whipping around.
Right.
But you can see very clearly at the front kind of gate, where there would be kind of the archway, the gate is open, and there is a body with the wrists tied and strung up on the gate. You can see the shapes of their back have been rended to have the skin pulled back and tied to their own ropes. That holds them taut out to be points of stars. As you can see, their entire back is just ripped open with the lungs pulled out, the rib cage split open to be like a gaping mouth with the lungs hanging out there. What you stepped in, Serathla, you now see like through the snow, you can kind of see blood that is bled through of a Pallid King spiral that has been made out of the innards of the victim. They're basically hanging there, and you can just sort of, the body's just sort of swaying, and it's got snow over it. Most of it's frozen at this point, but it's just splayed out on the gate.
Kiran,
On the gate.
this is... We should really go see that man from the mansion.
I had wanted to speak to Oriel before this, see what more we could learn from him, but
Is this normal in this town?
No.
What is the meaning of this? Where are the gods? I was like looking around for any sort of activity besides like if anybody else is seeing this shit.
Entirely dead here. There's no guards. It's just this body in the courtyard.
This...
There's no one on the streets, too. That's the thing. It's like people just don't go out. So something like this goes undetected for quite a while in these times of the year.
Serathil, this is the work of the Pallid King.
this is what the townsfolk, city folk, were speaking of. Raphael told us about this. And Kaze told us that the man he saw had some kind of connection.
He was drawing art of this, as well as all the symbols of the Pallid King, the swirls. There was
We are not safe. Nobody is safe in this town. We must tell someone of authority of what's going on here.
It seems to be known already. Oriel said that he was working on it and that he would return later to talk more on it.
Oh.
Let me see if I can do like a group call. Yeah, so Kieran's going to cast Sending Plus, 5th level.
Yeah.
Is it
to
plus plus
basically-
to include us?
No,
Is it a group
not
call?
wasting a
Zoom
7th
call?
level spell that we
That would
haven't
be a
even
good
talked
like
about.
advancement of the Sending Plus spell to be like
Yeah.
upcast it and you get to put one more person on the call.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have friends and family in your bubble? So Kieran is immediately gonna like almost like shy away, like he's making a phone call, but like put his like hood up, or his cloak up, and then he's going to cast Sending Plus to Oriel. Just immediately, Governor, we need to speak. A dead body, splayed like the others, is at the gate of your manor. We just walked into it.
You'd hear his voice respond, very like tired. And it must be like maybe half hour after you already talked to him. I'll return immediately. Expect me within a half hour.
Very good. Should we have one of the employees take care of this?
Yes. We need to try to identify the body.
Of course. We'll see you soon. And then closing the call, Kieran will go. We need to take this down and bring it inside for identification. Oriel will be here in a half hour. We should wait for his arrival before doing anything.
Without finishing that sentence, Saratha will begin trying to like get him down.
Yeah.
Hoping.
Yeah, together you can easily get it down because it's not like particularly that tall. It's just the gate's probably like 10 feet tall.
Actually,
but
I
it's
don't
basically-
help. I'm sorry. I make
Oh,
effort
good
not
call.
to
Yeah,
not
you
to
probably-
help.
That's probably a good
Well,
call.
Yeah.
Somebody else help.
Yeah, I doubt he could smell
Actually,
the blood
really-
as it's probably all frozen.
Yeah, there's not as much smell in the air because it's all frozen. But if you got close to it, it would be pretty dangerous because it's a pretty dope popsicle for Lou right there. As you're taking the body down, like you only saw it from the back. As you pull it down, you can see that the face, it's not the face is there, but like through just the general shape of the face, they've cut and carved a spiral through the whole face.
Ooh.
But yes, you can easily drag or bring the body inside.
Wiswick is probably pretty bad at carrying things, so he just cleans it up afterwards.
Kieran will assist with it.
Mhm. Yeah, you as they're like pulling the body down, like the two of you are kind of like looking down at like the spiral of innards that are displayed there and cleaning that up. You bring the body inside and you can see that it's a young man, probably in his early 20s. But
Any form of identification.
pretty much no. I mean, he had no shirt on because his back was splayed open. He was just wearing pants essentially and no shoes, and drenched in blood, all of it. Is there anything you'd like to do while you wait, or you just want to wait?
Yeah, Wiswick's just gonna investigate the rest of the building to see if there's any more bodies.
Kieran
How
will
many bodies there are.
look over the body, see if there's anything else he might glean from it.
Sure, give me an investigation check. Wiswick, you start to move through the manor, and there doesn't seem... You running through the halls, you don't find any other signs of intrusion or any more bodies.
How about exits?
I mean, there's several
Besides the one we
entrances and
went into.
exits to the building. You know, just like back doors, side doors, servants' doors. There's, you know, if you're trying to defend a location, this is not a great location to defend because there's a lot of entrances and exits.
Understood. Okay. I don't plan on doing that, but yeah, it's good to know.
Kieran, what'd you get for that investigation check?
18.
18. Okay. The main thing you can get from investigating this body is, besides the wound, the types of wounds and whatnot, the man looks as though he may have been a vagabond, judging by kind of the dirt and scruff that you can see through the wounds. It's really hard to see much, though, to tell much about who this man was. There are spots on the wounds, though, where the flesh that's not cut around them, it almost looks like boiled in certain places and singed. Not like fire, but more like acid.
Jeez. Could I just be, or are you doing something, Stefan?
Nope, go ahead.
Saratha would like to examine the body. This is not necessarily a spell, but could I do like an Arcana check to see if there's any sort of necromantic magic in nature on this
I'd
body?
allow that. Go ahead and give me an Arcana check.
15.
15.
Anything to help?
He already rolled. So with a 15, I would say, I mean, you pretty clearly, I'd say, would be able to sense that there isn't like necromantic magic inundating this body.
Yeah.
In fact, there's not really any magic. The only thing that maybe feels a little magical is there are trace amounts of elemental magic around the wounds, where you would see these boils and blisters, like they was burned by acid.
Just like what he saw.
But like general elemental magic, not like like there was an elemental that attacked, like the acidic element. It does feel a bit magical.
Seeing that my hammer had these spirals on them, would I remember anything? Would it help at all for me to think about it and see if I recall anything?
You can give me an insight check.
17.
The only thing you have much recollection of with your hammer is just knowing that the symbol carved onto it is meant to profane holy things. You didn't really have a lot of interactions with the process of fucking up your hammer. They just gave it to you when they were like, yeah, you won't hit us with it, so here.
Okay.
That's pretty much, which is kind of stuff that you already kind of knew about the Pallid King, that his symbol is often used to profane other holy sites. Anything else until Oriel gets here?
Not unless I can re-prepare some spells.
Okay. So you kind of wait there. There's a point when the servant that was in there kind of comes by to check on you, and immediately goes into a panic in a flurry.
Easy. We didn't do this.
What's happening here now?
It would appear we have been targeted either randomly or the opposite of randomly, where they meant to do it.
Intentionally is the word
Thank
you're
you.
looking for, friend.
Yes. Sometimes, with my old age, the words, yes, targeted us by the cultists.
We must lock the estate down. He kind of just starts to stumble away, and kind of like so overwhelmed by the sight of the body that he seems to be completely befuddled to be able to process it and say things with how mutilated it is.
Kieran's gonna go after him and kind of like a little guidance cantrip, be like, there, friend, it's okay. I understand your concerns. Just remember that, you've got a job here to do, and it's okay. You can work through this. And Kieran's like leaning on his staff and like rubbing on the back, like, it's all right. You've got this, buddy. It's okay.
Okay. And you're all staying, right? You're not going anywhere. You're not leaving me here alone.
Yes, we're staying, and Oriel will be here soon. So even better.
Good.
And don't forget, you always have that chained guard. You can ask for help. Huh? And Kieran just turns and walks back.
Never flame. He starts wandering away much quicker now to lock as many doors as he can. But it doesn't take long before you hear a horse outside, and immediately hear the snowfalls of Governor Clay. You see he opens up the doors, and you can feel that abrasive wind as you can see Governor Clay steps in. It's interesting because you've been traveling with him for so long that like he became as dirty as you all, but he is kind of like restored into a put together political representative. He's had a shave. You can see his hair is pulled back because it's slightly longer now. You could still see kind of all those strands of gray in there, mingled with the dirty blonde. But he is flanked by 2 guards, and he doesn't even say anything. He immediately steps up to the body and kneels down to it to begin investigating it.
Walking up to him, Kieran would point out the boils and the burns, and we'll just say that Seraphil said this out loud. Seraphil thinks that these might be from some kind of arcane effects on the individual. They appear to be unkempt, potentially a vagabond of the city, someone that no one would notice was gone.
Yes. That seems to be the most recent targets, now that folk have been locking themselves away at night. Yes, these wounds look meticulously carved. Perhaps with an enchanted blade.
Interesting. Also, we got Scarlet back. I don't know if I actually mentioned.
Yeah, and he just kind of like looks and he's like,
She was
one
here to
thing at a
kill
time.
Caliph.
One thing at a time.
It's okay. She's safe now. Look, and he motions to the manacles.
And
on
Caliph, Lord Stormrain,
Yes, that's the one. Remember
did
him?
she succeed?
No, and it wasn't under my own volition.
Right, yes, I forgot to mention that.
Well, that's an important detail.
She has some kind of scathefulum parasite in the base of her neck. But, as you said, one thing at a time.
Yes, one thing at a time.
The world's ending at some point, though. But this first.
Okay. Well, the reports from the local guard, I haven't had any luck finding who's responsible for this. Any arrests they've made has not been fruitful in finding any details about a cult. There seems to be no trace of a cult at all. You assume these sorts of terrible things are the works of such nefarious groups, but investigations point to it being an individual. The
Just
early
one.
murders, there were footsteps, bloodied. There's only ever one set.
Were they ever able to follow those? Maybe have a common focal point that they would all head to after?
They didn't get far before the footsteps stopped. But these wounds are... the boils and the burns are consistent across all victims. They've gotten worse and worse since the first killing, as far as the brutalizing of the body. It is not my city to police, but I've tried speaking with the leadership here. But they're dealing with a refugee crisis as well.
Refugees from where?
North. Apparently, the Quintaki doesn't need to rest in the winter. And they've been raiding. Their soldiers are In the military, we do call it foraging.
You see.
People have nowhere else to go. The northern towns are abandoned. So there would be plenty of vagabonds in the lower districts. This is not the return I'd hoped for.
Sean. Sorry. Got
No,
it.
go ahead.
Okay, remind me again. Governor Clay, is he the leading person of Valmercia?
No, he's
Oh,
not
I
even
see.
a Vermilcian politician or an Enduran politician. He's from the Gwyn Empire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I meant.
He is meant to be like a diplomat here.
Okay, he's like,
staying.
okay. Gotcha. That's what I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
I
Whisper.
wanted to leave the city as soon as possible to go back to the Empire, report what I found, which he showed me. I don't think I could leave this city in this state.
As we could not leave without rectifying this, Kaze here actually has some more information. At least, potential lead.
Governor, sorry. I did run into a fellow who Kira and I have an interaction with at the auction last time we were here. I bought an item from him yesterday, and the things I found in his place, he may be the individual that you were speaking of. There's drawings of that would be that of the Pallid King symbol and art with blood, like this dead corpse over here.
You met this man.
I did. I pretended to be okay with it, or just so I can come out with my own head.
And when did you see this?
Yesterday.
And then today this showed up here.
Were you
Yes.
followed yesterday after you left this man's place?
No, I'm really good at no. I don't know, okay?
I mean, your passive stealth, if that was a thing, is probably very high.
It's a good thing passive stealth isn't a thing.
Just a thought.
Be
just
over.
a
Like
thought.
DM, it would be over.
Yeah.
I can't do anything. All you have such good passive everything. Was he dangerous?
Yes,
You met him?
very much so. I thought about taking care of him myself, and then he showed me what he's capable of. So I played the
What did
dumb
he show
card.
you?
Nothing threatening, just his ability to be somewhere where he shouldn't have been, unless under the influences of magic. Also,
Understood.
a lot of magic items that he just kind of. I mean, he was a collector, as you
Magic items.
remember. He has a ton of magic items. Yes.
Do you know this man's name?
Do I know this man's name? I don't think so. Right?
I don't think you ever asked for his name.
No. No, I do not.
You know where he
Can you-
lives, though.
I do
Show
know.
me where
I
he
do. I
lives.
could show you where he lives. He lives
So
on
I can
21
check
Trump
with
Street.
the auction records.
Do you have them handy?
No, but I can get to them.
We could also just knock on his door and ask him what other magic items he
think-
has.
Do you
And
think that would be safe now that he's clearly sent you a message? If he is the killer, which this seems to point to.
here's my plan. Proposal. I go
Kieran
back,
leans in.
ask him if he has any idea that I, or let him know that I found this body, and the only thing I've ever seen just like it is one of his drawings, and I was wondering if he could point me to some sort of correlation, maybe, and then behind me is the other four invisible, right? And that way, if I get in trouble, then they can just save me. It's a great plan, right? It's a great plan. I know. You can. Yeah.
Well, I've seen you destroy aspects of gods and enthrall other aspects of gods and slay all sorts of things. I suppose any plan from you lot is bound for some success.
If I may, Kieran motions to the manacles on Scarlet's wrists. Maybe we put those to better use on an enemy instead of an ally. One of us can sneak in,
Safe.
or just saying I can enter the liminal space, and just as you're speaking with them, pop out and clamp them on.
Not a bad idea. Actually,
Yeah, for
really
sure.
like that idea.
Seems like you have many ways to ambush
catch?
this man.
If
You
could
think
give
he
me
would let you into his home, Timber, after your encounter?
As long as I have something to trade, I think he'll be willing to. He knows that I
Sounds-
know he's a procurer of magic items, and if I want to browse his inventory, I could also make that sort of.
If you do this, this would be greatly appreciated by the city, I'm sure. They do not have enough guards to spare to deal with a serial killer and protect the people.
Well, his connection with the Pallid King, regardless of whether he's the killer or not, is information we need.
Agreed. So I have a addition to this plan. Maybe if he tries to escape, if I could see him once, then or get something of his, we can try casting scrying and see where he goes, and we can
That's
try and
true.
scare him off.
He's not going to get scared
Mm.
based on his mannerisms.
Be
Okay.
helpful. Is it better if I just stay?
No, Scarlet, we need you. You're an essential part of the Wavyard 5. We wouldn't be 5 without you.
Yeah, I mean, who else is gonna make a scary face at him?
Right. Show him your cool new.
As soon as you say that, Wiswick, and I'll just touch her face and just not say anything.
Kieran hits Wiswick and goes, "That wasn't very nice."
I was just trying to lighten things up. Sorry.
When do you plan to do this plan?
Right now. Right? Everyone?
I don't
I
see
say
any
there's
point in
no
waiting.
rest for the wicked.
Unless we want lunch. Do we want lunch? Is it lunch? Actually, Lily ate all the pastries. Never mind. I don't.
Always thinking with your stomach.
Oh, did you eat those pastries?
Lily
no,
did.
The
We didn't,
construct.
Oh, good.
My
They're
snake did.
several months old.
Would we have had to
Alright.
roll a constitution check?
Right. Well, I will acquire what support I can and position myself not too far. If you need help.
Actually,
You mean?
if you could identify if he ever came into contact with maybe a pallid mask, or
I could go
some-
check the records of the auction house to see if there's any artifacts he purchased recently.
I think that's a very good idea.
Do you mean to tell me that there's no additional resources this town can scrape up for what just occurred?
I could see, but there's a war happening.
Oh, I know all too well. As I kind of shake my head and look to the side.
Valencia is stretched thin. We did not expect to need to defend themselves so vigorously in the winter months. They are not supplied properly to defend themselves for the winter months. And it is still a while until support comes from the Empire. These things take time.
I understand they do. But this war that the Empire started again is unnecessary. It leads to the death of the innocent. I'm not sure what this Pallid King is. I'm still learning. But I ask if I assist them on finding more about it, that you and I have a chat about taking me back to the Empire, because I would like to have a discussion with those, with the council that leads.
Yes. If we're to end this war and focus our efforts on your mission, he's looking to Kiran.
Till then, the immediate issue. Does anyone need anything, or can we head out now? By the way, the guy bought... What was the orb called?
The Chronosphere.
He bought an item called the Chronosphere.
which
That
I
should
have
help
in my
you.
possession now.
Yes.
Well, I can look at the records and find the name of who purchased that and then cross it with any other recent purchases.
That would be fantastic.
And send Kiran a message as soon as you know. You can do that, right? Here, take my bracelet.
I was like, I don't know how that does.
Oh, that's right.
Take my bracelet.
Oh yeah, you guys have a sending bracelet.
Kiran has the other one.
Kiran. Oriel Kiran.
Please call
Um,
me by my code name, the
Moon Boy.
Q-tip.
Q-tip.
The Q-tip.
So the rest of the campaign is like a news casting like company that's just called Q-tip, and they just keep Kiran updates. Here's a Q-tip.
Oh my god.
Lord.
I will head there immediately.
And what will you do of the body?
We'll try to find out who he is. If we can't, as a graveyard for the unknown, the Luxem Paxtorum. We'll see to his rest.
And Seth kind of nod his head. I'm like happy with that. But he's been like mauled and flayed and like how fresh was the body? Could you tell?
If you did a medicine check, you might be able to tell.
Can I do a medicine check?
Yeah,
Can Kieran assist him?
absolutely. For advantage.
Oh, I don't think he needed it.
Yeah, 23.
Yeah, I mean, Seraphil, not just with your intelligence and you've read up on biology, but just like your understanding of magic and necromancy and your intimate knowledge of life and death. This man, because the body froze overnight, it's hard to tell exactly when he died,
Right.
but the but you just in observing and sensing the state of the body, he died and pretty quickly froze because of how bitter the nights are.
Yeah.
So he likely died sometime in the middle of the night. And from what you can see on the wrists, that he was alive when the perpetrator began mutilating the body. You can clearly see signs of struggle on the wrists.
Yeah. That's fun. And then the last thing I'll do before we leave is I'll walk up to my body and lay my hands on it. Because since it's a bloodied up and torn up body that was frozen, I'm assuming it's starting to thaw.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to cast Gentle Repose on it.
Okay, good.
Just so it just stops decaying.
Okay. Good call. It also would have eventually started to smell like blood, and Timber would have been unhappy. Okay, so for the next 10 days, the body will no longer continue to decay. It can't become undead. Okay. So Oriel will, you see him kind of put his guards to work with the body to bring it away and to start doing their own investigation. He leaps onto his horse and kind of gives you all one last look and nods to you as he rides off towards the auction house. And that's where we're going to take a break. Gasp. When we get back, you can approach the house as you see fit. All right, folks, stick around, and we will see you in 5 minutes for the rest of tonight's session. Thank you for sticking around with us. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
welcome back, everyone,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Advantage in Paradise. Our friends here, the Wayward Five, have discovered a murder victim of a serial killer that has been on the loose in Vermalcia. Committing brutal murders that look to profane the Zendariel goddess, the Everflame, as well as clearly sends a symbol to these heroes. They just spoke to Governor Clay about it, who's going to investigate the auction house to try to find out who the man they suspect is and what he may have purchased recently. And now they are planning to head over to this man's house to scope it out and potentially infiltrate and catch him. So, you all are on the streets of the city, heading towards the where this man lives. The streets once again dead. You see no lights on in homes. Doors are sealed shut. Occasionally you do still see those eyes peeking through the curtains. You might see one or two folk walking in the streets. They look like maybe couriers, people who are delivering things for folks. Very much like the heart of a pandemic when the only people out are the DoorDash drivers. And you begin to approach the neighborhood that Timber, you know this man to live in. And everything is not unnaturally dark, but just feels gloomy, because you look up in the sky and you can see where the sun is, because you can see this dense black splotch where the eclipsed sun is, and you can see kind of the halo of orange light bleeding down. Everything has a gloomy purple color like twilight across the streets. Snow is still whipping around. At this point, you realize it's less that it's snowing and more that the winds are so strong that they're kicking snow up into your face. And you do need to like trudge through 3-4 feet of snow. Even in this rich section of town, no one's plowing the streets. No one's shoveling these things away. You might occasionally see a servant pushing snow off of the roof to prevent collapse. But once you get to the neighborhood where this guy is, it is absolutely dead quiet. All you hear is your footsteps and through the snow. And the homes look almost abandoned. There's no sense of life in this neighborhood.
That's not the mood.
I
Would you like to do?
wanna look around.
For anything in particular?
Suspicious things.
Okay.
I
give me a
think
perception check.
It'd
can
be
give me-
more once we arrive at or close to the house where we can like see the shape of it.
Mhm.
Kieran would be like, maybe I can use my predator vision to.
So the street that the house is on, particularly because generally this area has very like labyrinthian streets where there's like several like terraces that you go upstairs, and there's mini parks that are buried under snow. But you find a particular street that Timber knows, and it's essentially kind of like a line of brownstones in New York that this house is in. You can sense this whole like unit, so to speak, is just dead quiet. There's no like sneaking around the house. There's just going up the stairs of the brownstone-esque building and knocking on the door. You could potentially go to try to get to the back if you were to try to investigate around it more. But it's 3 stories high. It's one apartment complex so that all 3 floors are his estate, and there's likely a basement. What was your perception check, Kieran?
16.
Right. I mean, the number one thing that is suspicious is that I'd say there's 4 brownstones that make up this block. They're all dark. His is dark. You can see maybe with your elf eyes, you can see like through the curtain of the front of his house, just like the faintest flickering of a single lantern. But with a 16, the thing that's most notable about the other ones, some of them definitely look abandoned. Like no one lives there, because you can see like windows that are open and curtains that are just sort of like blowing out of that window, like someone left a window open in a mad dash to leave. And no one, if anyone lives in there, they're freezing to death. That's probably the most suspicious thing about this block of buildings.
Sean, I would like to first cast Mage Armor on myself.
Okay.
And then I would also like to summon Jet. And I'm going to command my Bat Familiar to fly to the neighbor's house. The one, the brownstone that is connected to his. Is his on the end, or is it in the middle somewhere?
So if there's 4, his is the if you're walking towards it from where you came, the second one. So 2 on one side, 1 on the other.
Okay, so I want him to go into the building that has 2, like the one on his left. That would be like there are 2 buildings next to that, and I'm commanding Jet to, it's an abandoned building, right?
Yeah, the one right next to it, definitely. The 2 next to it on either side look more abandoned than the one in the end, but the one directly to the left of it has like the open windows with the curtains flying.
Right, so his job is to just like fly through the chimney, go down inside, and let me know if you hear anything.
Okay. Give me a perception check for Jet, or investigation check, whichever you'd like.
Okay, he's a bat, so we're just gonna go with his super hearing powers. I forgot the modifier. It's been a while since Jet was useful.
Yeah, you haven't used him in a while.
Okay, he had got a 11 plus, what is it, wisdom? Plus 1. So it's a 16. Oh wait, he has advantage, right?
If he's listening.
Yeah, I already rolled for that. No, it's a 16.
Cool.
No, it's a 12 total. Sorry,
Okay.
my math is bad.
It's all good. 12 is fine though to start to see, like, Jet can clearly tell that no one lives in this building. There's no signs of recent activity. There's snow built up inside through the open windows. And even like through like the chimney a little bit. The place though looks, with a 12, he can tell with Jet's eyes that the place was quickly abandoned. Like there's like ripped open desk drawers and stuff where things were just grabbed, but like most of the people's belongings are still there. Whoever lived here left in a hurry.
So there's a bowl of oats that's still warm on the counter side.
Yeah, there's a bowl of mostly oats that by this point is frozen.
Okay, never mind then. Yeah, guys, it looks like whoever left that what's called building left in a hurry. I'm gonna leave Jet there so he can scout in case anything weird shows up.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to approach the house. We're going to act like we know nothing about the Pallid King, just in case we encounter him. And then we want to make sure that we get the jump on him in the right moment. The house is creepy, very creepy. So I couldn't tell if there's any sort of magical essence in it, but that was what it is.
Should we go invisible maybe, and like just you go so he feels a little bit more comfortable? Like, is he gonna run if he sees all of us?
Probably.
Yes, probably. So I would suggest that. Also, just watch your tracks in the snow because, yeah.
Do we want to have multiple points of ingress? I could use etherealness to scout out the area. If Scarlet can go around back, I'm sure she can make short work of any locks and enter from the rear.
Yes.
I can let her know what's on the inside and whether that's a good idea, or maybe she can scale the building and enter from a rooftop.
That is a good idea.
Best I can do.
I am just a little concerned. Like I said, there's something weird about this house
Of course.
and his presence in it. So, just be aware. I'm a little fearful of us being alone.
You have nothing to fear, Kaze.
Huron, did you want these?
Yes, Kieran will take the manacles and have them at the ready. And then he will cast Etherealness on himself.
Okay.
I will start to go around back.
Wait, was it before she goes cast invisible on her?
Yeah, Wiswick's going to cast invisibility at a.
I am a shadow.
Well, actually, is it? You're gonna be outside though.
Yeah, for a
She's
little bit.
Going to
Then
enter the house is the point.
I'm going to infiltrate.
Okay, so yeah, just I tell her that like, oh, be careful with the snow. If it's snowing right now, that like they're gonna see your footprints or something. Just stay inside with it. And I cast I'm just gonna cast invisibility on her alone, because I feel like if I were to like stand next to Timber in the snow, he would just notice like snow coming down on a shadow or whatever.
Well, you could cast it on yourself and then just not be in his field of view. Both you and Seraphil.
Right.
Yeah, but is he
If
really,
you don't want to
I
waste
don't
the
know.
spell slot, it's fine. I'm just
It's
saying.
not
that
about wasting the spell slot. It's about, thinking that it's gonna work. I guess, whatever.
I would assume it would have no issue working. If you both just like flank on either side of the door front, invisible is probably a little better than not. Because
Okay.
it's still like swirling snow.
Yeah.
You would have to have the perception of an Elysian elf to see something like that.
Okay. So, Wiswick, are you going to cast invisibility on yourself, Seraphil, and Scarlet?
I guess so, which means 4th level. So yeah, everybody hold hands.
I'm gonna sneeze more gem dust on you.
Is that's still up, right? The non-detection.
Yes. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would
it
be
has
up on
been
you
8
for 8
hours.
hours. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's only been a couple hours. Okay. So, what is everyone's point of entry? So, Curon, you're going to be using etherealness to enter undetected.
Yes.
Timber, you are going to try to talk to him and enter that way,
Yeah, just to the
or at
front
least
door.
distract him long enough. Scarlet, you're going around back to try to see if there's a rear entrance you can get in through.
Yep.
Okay. Scarlet, give me a stealth check. You have advantage because you're invisible.
I also have my cloak of elven kind on.
And while you're doing that, Timber, do you want to give Scarlet a moment to get into a position, or do you want to walk up now?
Give her a minute.
Okay. Is there anything you want to do as you're waiting for Scarlet to get into position? Any last things before?
So I'd say that Kieran would have told them to wait until he scopes out the area and sends a message that they should go.
With the etherealness.
Yes.
Okay. Because you can go through walls with that, right?
Oh yeah, I can go.
Yeah, so
through
you can go in before anyone and then
Yes.
send a message out to everyone to.
Yes,
to
so I can know
engage.
exactly where he is, and I
Okay.
can do a quick scan of the entire building.
Okay.
Is what I'm looking to do here.
Wiswick's gonna go kind of next to Timber because he wants to get a look at the guy when he opens the door. So he's just gonna go like flat against the wall to try and make him look. I mean, he's invisible, but like he doesn't want him to like, notice him. So.
I'd say at a certain point before you even begin to enter anything, you would get that message from Oriel, because he would have gone ahead of you all, so he would have reached the auction house before you got here.
Mm-hmm.
You would hear a voice from in your head ascending to you, Curon. It looks like the man's name is Brum. He is a frequenter of the auction house, but he seemed to quickly stop his purchases and stop showing up. His last purchases magic carpet. It was about a month ago, maybe, or no, it would have been, yes, a month ago. He purchased a magic carpet at the auction one day, and then the next day, the last item he purchased was a longsword. There were no descriptions for the longsword, other than that it was a magic longsword, essentially. It is described as having cracks across, looking very ancient and cracked, like a blade itself. But it's more, it seems the purchase, they were selling it as a historical artifact.
Very good, Oriel. Thank you. We are at the house now, and we'll look for these.
I'll
And then,
position myself and some men nearby if you need help.
so are we saying this is before cast etherealness?
I'll say yes, so that you
Okay.
don't disrupt any concentration.
There's no concentration. It's just I would then have to cast sending to communicate to the rest of the party, and I don't want to waste all this spell. So Curon would say to the rest of them that Oriel contacted him. The man's name is Brahm. Kaze, if you want to maybe drop that on him and be like, oh, I know something. I don't know how negotiation. Anyways, and his last purchases were a magic carpet and a ancient longsword. That once he purchased the carpet, the next day was the longsword, and then he hasn't returned since after being a regular. The longsword is cracked. This might be the potential cursed item we're looking for. But as stated, I'll enter the ethereal plane. Scarlet will enter from the rear. I'll then let you know, Kaze, what I've seen on the inside. And when Scarlet's in position, Scarlet, I'll let you know if there's an issue at the back door. Otherwise, assume you are good to enter.
Right.
And then with that, Kieran would enter the liminal space and float through the door.
Yeah,
He'd go
absolutely.
through the side door. Or like the side open.
Oh, like you would attempt to come through the side and not like the front door.
Yeah.
So
I'd
you
also
can
like.
easily... Go ahead.
I'd also like to preface with, Timber wouldn't want this group to be planning right in front of the vision of this place.
I presumed you
Yeah.
all were like
We're all
in,
outside the
like,
front door.
front door, like,
all right.
"Hey,
at
what
the
do you
base of the
do?"
steps.
Yeah.
You like none of you noticed that the guy's just like looking at the curtain at you all.
Yeah.
We're all in
Yeah.
SWAT gear, and we're like, all right, execute, plan.
He's
out
actually
the
been
Delta.
sitting on the steps the whole time
Yeah.
under snow.
Stoop kids gonna stoop.
Yeah, no, there's definitely plenty of concealable areas where you could have been nondescriptly hiding and discussing this. But yeah, Kieran, you can definitely enter into like the neighboring house and go through the wall if you want to do it that way.
Dope, yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So when you enter into the neighboring house, Kieran, you would see kind of what Jet had seen, this sort of rapid exit. But you would also see that with your passive perception being so high, like as you're approaching these walls to go through them, like there's clearly wallpaper that was on there that had been shredded. Like it looks like people had been clawing the wallpaper off. And you can even see like some scratch marks on the wood underneath. And like it looks like just like whoever was here was just like viciously ripping at this wall. But
Weird.
that's weird. But yeah, you can absolutely shift through the wall. And when you enter into the space, you're immediately hit with the exact visuals that Timber had mentioned. You kind of like awkwardly walk through the stairs that are there and through like a cupboard under the stairs where you see a little boy with a lightning scar. He's just like I've been here the whole time.
Harry Potter. Wait, we
wizard
can't say
now.
that. Oh, we're bad.
Oh no. Um, uh, what you see, like the way it's set up is there's kind of like this vestibule room that has the steps that lead up to the next floor. You immediately see a living room space, or like a guest parlor, where there's just absolutely destroyed furniture everywhere, ripped apart. You see stuffing has been ripped out of it. Some of it has been burned. You can see the fireplace there, and the fireplace is filled with rotting dead animals. Like you just see like stray cats, anything that could be caught. Um, and they all look. A lot of them look like they've been eviscerated in some ways or messed with. The curtains all have been tattered a bit as well. You can see singe marks on them. You can see bloody hand stains across them. You can see this room leads to a. It's kind of like you have a square with 4 quadrants in it. The quadrant you're in right now is just like the vestibule with the staircase. The quadrant across from you is the living space. You can see there's an entrance into another quadrant, and then there's a hallway next to the stairs that leads into the last quadrant. The first thing you hear as you come in here is just the open sound of a man weeping coming from down the hall past a door from the steps. You could just hear a man in there just
So that's where I'll go first.
The other thing you notice with your passive perception so high is that there's just sort of like the shadows in this space are heavy in a weird way, where they almost feel like the darkness spell is taking up anywhere where there's no light. And there's all of the things you've seen so far have been with dark vision because there's no lights in here.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where like it feels like there's like you look into these shadows and it feels like the shadows are staring back at you. You slip through the door, and what you see is the disgusting kitchen that Timber had described. You see there is rotten food everywhere. No bugs or insects. There's no signs of life other than a man in the middle of this kitchen that has been absolutely torn apart. You can see he's sitting, he's not really sitting, he's on his knees in front of just a thrashed apart like kitchen counter table with just food and refuse all over the place. There's just like blood smears on the cabinets and all the furniture. There's a chandelier that has been fallen down onto the table, and just sort of there's hot wax that spilled all over the place. And you can see he's just sitting on his knees crying. You can see his clothes are a mess. His hair is greasy. His eyes are bloodshot. There's shadow over his face. He looks gaunt and sickly and yellow in the flesh. His arms and hands are completely covered in burns and boils, like you saw on the scars of the victims. And you can see he is just sitting there weeping, and he has in his hands the longsword that you heard was described. And you can see like he's squeezing it almost, and you can see blood in his hands from it, because he's not holding it by one hand is on the hilt, one is on the blade, and he's just crying and rocking and staring at this blade. And in this room also you can see these unnatural shadows that seem to spread across, and you can look and you can see to your right, is a dining room where you can see he is just like a horde of trash and newspapers, and you can see scrawled on the walls are the spirals drawn in blood, and just like magic items littering the place that he has collected.
All right. Seeing this, the door that Scarlet would enter from the rear, is that in the kitchen?
Yeah, you would see past all of that. There is a back door in the back of the kitchen that leads out to a enclosed back patio.
Okay. Huron's. Can't see her. How does invisibility work on the ethereal plane? If you're invisible on the normal plane and you're in the ethereal plane.
That's interesting.
It doesn't specify anything in the spell. I'll say that right now.
I would say that a invisibility spell is an illusion spell, so it's more of a cloaking than it is you like slipping into. I'd
Right.
say you'd still wouldn't be able to see her.
Right, okay. So really quickly, Kieran would first ascend. I almost imagine he would just like literally like in the ethereal plane, like flip upside down and then just lower his head through the floor. So take a quick scan of the basement and then go.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine it's very like in the like Inception, in the way that you're just moving about in whatever way you want.
Yeah.
And you slip through the floorboards, and I'm like imagining like if this were a movie, like the camera moving through the floorboards. You just see like a little rat run by, and then it goes down into the basement, where you can then hear the muffled crying upstairs. The basement is incredibly dark, to the point where you're almost afraid of the walls because they are so dark. And your dark vision, it's pitch blackness. There is refuse scattered about where there are like old. It looks like he had a lot of stores for winter that he's like been destroying, like absolutely wrecking. You can see there are in the basement. You would find a Pallid King spiral in the center of the room that is made up of pieces of his victims, it looks like, where there might be a heart in one spot, just like a femur, just bones and flesh that make up a spiral that leads down to the middle, where you can see a nearly completely burnt out candle is just in the center.
Okay. Then going to flip back up and rise up into the second floor.
The second floor, interestingly, looks completely spotless. Like he's not gone up here since this all started. Like you can find a bedroom, you can find a study, and this area is pristine. It just looks completely untouched.
And then quickly, like scooting up to the third floor, once like a quick look around that like shows there's nothing, he'll ascend once more.
The third floor, you find his what would seems to be a trophy room of sorts and a parlor, and it has like a balcony off the back with like a telescope there, and this seems like a entertainment room. You can see another fireplace in here. You see magic items on plaques all across the walls, and you also see like hunted animal heads. Taxidermied heads here as well. It's just very. You see like a bar area and just some dust-covered and snow-covered furniture because you can see the doors are just open on the back balcony, and there's just been snow ushering in here. It reeks of like just like wet dampness and mildew. It's very subtle though because the cold has kind of taken that away. But each floor you went up though, like generally you escaped the reek of the lower floors that just smelled like pure. Like whenever you drive by a dump and you just smell that horrible wretch, is what the lower floor smells like.
All right, and then he'll quickly descend back down to the first floor, and as he does, he'll send a message to Scarlet first, saying, "Suspect at back door holding sword. Wait for Timber to call him to the front."
My stealth roll was a 25, by the way. I rolled that a little while ago.
Nice.
And
Quiet
then
as the night.
Then he'll message Kaze and say, "Suspect has sword in hand. Pallid mark in basement. No, just basement's one. Need you to distract for Scarlet to enter rear. Then I will fuck him up. Good.
It's exactly 25. Excellent.
Kieran, where are you going to like position yourself at this point inside?
I think Huron will just kind of like float in the hallway, watching this man to see his reaction, and then we'll stand there and let the man walk through him. That'll look cool on camera. And then
Yeah.
turn around, have the manacles out, and ready to just clamp them on this guy's wrists.
Okay. Scarlet, what is your approach in the back? Where I'd say you are right now is like you're on the outskirts of the walls of his back patio. It's just very much like how brownstones are, where there's just sort of those back patios in all of the houses. And you're in like an alleyway in the back, and there's just sort of a locked gate that leads into the back area. But there's no like spikes on the walls. You could easily probably do an acrobatics check to climb up over. I think she froze.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
it took me a second too.
I was like, are you just brooding? Or
Yeah.
are you frozen?
Just contemplating, just like, no, I'm not doing an acrobatics check.
Oh, she can still hear us, but she can't talk.
Oh, interesting.
And her video's not working.
Huh.
All right, well, while she figures that out,
Wiswick sending what's called messages to Kieran this whole time. Hey, what's going on? What's happening? You figured it out? What's happening? Do you see it?
So when you send a message, when you use message to me, can I respond for free? Is that how that works?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so then Kieran would
Good.
keep him updated, especially if he doesn't have to worry about, third level spell counts or word counts. He'll be like, this place is disgusting. Our suspect has the sword in hand, appears to have mutilated himself with it. There's a mark of the Pallid King made up of bits and pieces of his victims in the basement, but otherwise, the rest of the house seems untouched by this taint. The shadows are heavy and spooky.
Very
So
spooky.
look out.
Why don't you send another message to Serathil so that he knows too?
Who are you saying this to?
Now what?
Okay, I'm not wasting a spell slot on that.
Even though I'm right next to him, so.
Sarathil's just standing there in the corner, just like looking, just like around.
Invisible, so no one can tell.
Wiswick's reading his spell book and remembering that he learned telepathic bond, and completely forgot about it.
that's right. Okay. So, Timber, are you approaching the front door at this point?
Yes. Waiting
Okay.
for them to be invisible.
Yeah, I'd say they.
We are invisible.
Yeah, I don't know. The fact that he was reading his book, I was just, okay.
You wouldn't know he's reading.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you can hear like you're close enough. They're close enough to you that you can tell that they're invisible and moving with you.
Right.
Yeah,
no, I was just
on
cracking a
his
joke.
face.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I approach the door and just knock on it. Just kind of like any...
Inside Huron, at this first knocking, you don't notice. He doesn't seem to move. He just keeps crying.
And then if it takes a while before if he doesn't answer, I'd knock again and... Sir? Hey, I've got a question about my item and, something else.
He does look up now, hearing the voice. Huron, you can see it almost looks like the blade in his hand starts to cry through those cracks. as you can see a dark ichor in there between the cracks. And then you can see it breaks apart and is connected by an ooze-like ichor.
Do I recognize it at all?
Yeah. That's the prongs of the black that Cal had. That you took from the corpse of a stranger in yellow.
There she is.
Is that better?
There you
There
go.
you are. He's got the prongs of the black, Scarlet.
What?
Kieran
How the fuck did he get that?
is in
What-
shock.
Ooh. What is it?
I imagine he like drops the manacles, but since we're in the ethereal plane, they just kind of float, and he's like, "Oh, I can't lose those."
So for context, because it's been a while since these haven't shown up since season 1 because Cal started using a different sword in season 2. But all the way back 60 episodes probably, they fought a stranger in yellow who had a sword. Cal took the sword. It seemed to bond with him at that moment. And he's had it ever since, but he hasn't used it since season 1. Prongs to the Black, by the way, everyone. Underground Oracle item. So he presumably had it with him still when you left him here in the House of Healing. But the blade now kind of almost mimics Lily a little bit, like a snake, as its sort of whip-like form with the ooze surrounding it comes out, and it looks like the head of the blade almost is looking at this man as he's looking to the door and looking back at the blade, almost like a standoff. And then the ooze starts to almost cry again. And you can see it hits the floor and starts to spread out like a puddle. And almost like it's reaching for the dark corners in the room. By the way, this room has the only lantern in it that you saw flickering. And as this sort of pours out, you see the sword then comes back together into just a blade. And the man drops it, clambers on the floor, and more of this black water flows out of it. And it's fluid-like. It's not like ooze. It looks like just black water is spreading out. And he stands up and starts to slowly shamble towards the door.
Was there a doorbell or something that I would have heard as my cue?
You could have heard through the house. You could have heard Timber banging on the door.
All right. Where I crapped out, I think, was I was about to acrobatics over the wall. So do you want that check?
Yeah.
And actually, before I do that, I pull out a very ordinary dagger that I just happen to have. Doesn't do anything special, just a normal dagger, and I kind of just like take a deep breath, rogue school, and then I go ahead and vault over with a 29.
Yeah. You do like a few flourishes that were unnecessary. As you climb over, but no one saw it because you're invisible. And but you also like gently land in the snow in the back where there's no noise made, and you can sneak up to the back door.
As I'm going, I want to like brush my footprints
Mhm.
away just to cover those tracks. And then I guess once I hear, I'll put my ear to the door, and once I hear the knock and movement of Brum walking, I will I'll try the door first. Is it locked?
It's locked.
All right. Thieves' tools.
Go for a thieves' tools check.
When Brahm gets up and walks towards the door, what is the ooze doing?
So the blade, Huron, you actually, if you're keeping your eyes on the blade and not him, you see the blade like sinks into the black water and disappears. And the black water, now seemingly without a source though, is still spreading out across the floor. Imagine you're floating. Your feet aren't touching the floor, right?
No, I'm also in a different plane of existence. So, I mean,
True.
it's the liminal space, so it, like touches this plane, but I cannot affect anything. And unless they have true sight, I don't think they can see me.
Okay, cool. He walks to the door, and you hear him start to unlock several things. Kieran, if you look, you can see the black water is spreading into the other rooms at this point. Timber, you hear the doors unlocking. Well, you hear he keeps the chain lock on though, and you can see he opens it, and it's just his face through there. Same thing you saw before, just sickly, ragged. You can see he's clearly been crying.
Is everything okay?
Of course, why would anything be wrong, sir?
Oh no, it just you looked like you were crying. But
Who are you? Who are you?
you don't remember me? We exchanged goods the other day, yesterday.
Goods.
Magic items, you know.
What do you want?
Information. We had a discussion about some papers you had lying around, and I saw a man spread out
What?
there was a dead man with his skin flayed out, and I remember seeing a picture that you had, and I was wondering if you could help me with drawing any conclusions or something to help me figure out what that's from. And
And you can see like his eyes where there's all this bloodshot going. You can see like it almost like you can see fluid moving through the veins underneath the eye. You can see like black fluid moving through them. You would then see at his feet, on the footsteps, black water seems to be pouring out of the house.
oh, what's that?
Shannon, Scarlet, as you're picking the lock, you would see black water starts to come out from underneath the door.
Okay. Just a quick check. It's Dex plus proficiency, right?
Correct.
12.
Yeah, it's a simple backdoor lock. You get it. It's not like a lock on a magic chest.
I appreciate
Technically, it could be.
Uh,
What did you roll?
a 2
Oh boy.
plus 10.
Yeah.
So, if I may, I think like Kieran's like trigger would be when the back door opens and he can like see that Scarlet has access. And I think he's super worried about this black water spreading. So he would almost immediately, once he sees that doorknob open and like a slight entrance, he would come out of it and just slap those manacles on his wrists and hit the activation button.
Okay. Okay, let's play this out. So as he's kind of like Timber, you can like see the black veins in his eyes, and you can start to notice in his face he's recognizing you, and he's getting angry. As you can see, he kind of like starts to grit his teeth, and he's twitching in his eye, and he's almost like something's boring into his head, like he has a migraine. And you see he's about to slam the door shut when you would hear the clamping sound around his wrists as Scarlet, as you would open the door and kind of step in and see this black water kind of starts gushing out of the door around your feet.
Is that high?
No. It's not that high. It's more like the door opened allows more of it to slush out. It's definitely like you had a hard time gauging it though, Kieran, but by this point it's definitely like enough where it's just like sifting on the floor with any kind of movement.
And I think as he's entering it, or as he's like coming out, slapping these on, Kieran would yell out, "Look out for the black ichor! It's the prongs of the black. Remember that sword Cal had? Remember? Yeah, it's that." No, he doesn't say. He would say like, "Look out for the
Venda?
black water. It's an artifact of the Pallid King."
As you're starting to shout that out, the man screams as soon as you put the chains on his arm, a blood-curdling scream, as he like immediately starts to like resist and fall towards you, Kieran.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like catch him or anything, or just let him fall?
No, catch. I imagine I'm right behind him, so he falls like into my arms.
Yeah, exactly. And he kind of looks up at you, and you can see the sclera of his eyes is completely black like yours now, and he's crying black tears like the prongs of the black water. And he just...
Sorry, prongs of the black water made me think of Game of Thrones.
Me too. I immediately was like, oh no. But as you look at him, though, he stares up at you and just says, "Help me," as he is pulled into the water.
Did I activate the manacles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, he's bound for sure. Like, you got that. But, like,
Gotcha.
he was pulled into the water. And I need
Right.
Huron, Scarlet, and Timber to give me, I would say, in this situation, dexterity saving throws.
Eight.
24.
21.
Huron, what'd you get?
8.
Okay. So, Scarlet, you start to feel yourself sinking in the water as if the floor completely went out underneath you.
Mhm.
Almost like if you're walking in the water at the beach and suddenly it just sinks.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you take
Yeah.
one step and your foot starts to sink in, but you deftly lift yourself up and kind of find somewhere to stand on top of, essentially.
Floor's
You
lava.
kinda- yeah, the floor is lava right now, yeah. Timber, you're outside, so you can easily kind of jump back and avoid the water. Huron,
Yes.
you feel yourself sink into the water rapidly, like a riptide almost pulling you under.
Can I shout something as
Absolutely.
The basement, there's a symbol of the Pallid. And then get sucked under.
Say it again.
That?
Kieran, say it again.
Scarlet, you see this because the door
Great.
is open because the guy would have had to open the door.
Right.
So you see through the hallway, and you get on top of this counter, and you look, and you just see Kieran
Right.
sink
I'm
into it.
immediately going to try and follow him.
Okay, so are
like
you going to
I'm
try to
facing in on
jump
the
into
floor
the
with him.
water?
Yeah.
Okay, Scarlet, you leap off, and you find yourself. It's like diving into a pool.
Yeah.
As you sink into this black ichor. Outside, you Wiswick.
Did I hear anything that Kieran yelled? before
Yes,
he
yeah,
got-
because you're right outside the door, and Kieran was right behind the door, so you all heard what Kieran yelled.
Okay, after hearing that, immediately commanding Jet to leave that other area and fly inside of this house and go to the basement while avoiding all of the prongs of the black liquid because he's a little back.
Yeah, he could definitely get in, and he could see when. Do you want to look through Jet's eyes and control him?
Yes.
Okay. So what you
It's
see
a
when you
fast
go in
bat. Sorry.
is, Bat's pretty fast. And he was literally just right next door. But I mean, you two definitely have time to do things while Wiswick does this, so it's
Yeah.
not going to be instantaneous. So if you two have something you want to do, you would notice Wiswick. Actually, no, Wiswick would be still invisible during this.
Yeah.
You
So
would see a
I'll
bat
result.
through the
You'll
wall.
yeah, that's true. You would see Jet fly out of the window of the other one and fly up to the chimney to get into this one. What are the two of you doing during this?
So Timber's actually going to blink inside because the door is still chained, has the chain on it.
Yeah, you'd be able to do that.
But when blinking inside, he would make sure, he was a, proficient child and the floor is lava, so he's going to grab onto something that he could see in the distance,
Yeah.
piece of furniture or whatever, and start looking for ways, or, see that Kieran's not there,
Yeah.
and just see this black But
I
based
would
on
ask for
what
an
he-
acrobatics check for grabbing onto something and whatnot, just based on like peeking through that crack. You'd have to be deft with it, but I'm sure you'll be fine.
20.
Perfect, you're good.
And then, I mean, obviously this is a progressional thing. So after he clings out of there, realizes he's not around, but based on what Kieran said, look for an entrance to the basement, and I guess kind of like what Jet is doing, but in himself.
Yeah. So you would see that there is, like, where the stairs are, you would see there is a there's the kind of like half cupboard door, but then at the like close to the wall where the door is that leads into the kitchen, because you know the layout of this space, you would see there is a door, and it looks like the water is flowing underneath the cracks, and you can kind of hear it flowing down steps, so you know this door is probably the basement door. Serathil, is there anything in particular you're doing? You heard Kieran and you see Timber blink inside.
I'm just gonna kind of stand at the door right now and
Yeah, it is locked.
just keep watch. Yeah. What's did I say that again? The door's
the-
locked.
The door does still have the chain lock on it. It's the only lock on there.
Yeah.
So like if you tried to open it to get in,
Oh,
you'd
I
still
could
be locked.
once I'm inside, I can mage hand it open.
Yeah, I'll say that we'll allow that.
Yeah.
So Serathil, I mean, you would notice the black water flowing from under the door. You'd want to avoid that.
Yeah. So it's coming out the door and it's like, what is it, hitting the snow and is it spreading through the snow?
Yeah, essentially, it's kind of like a slushy in the way
It's
when
like
you
a
put the
snow
flavor in,
cone?
as it's just a
Yeah.
black
God.
slushy essentially happening on the steps.
Is there anything nearby I could like hop on some furniture and play
Yeah,
like
I
the
mean,
floor is lava?
I didn't intend to create
Picture like a
a Floor's
grappling,
Lava
like-
encounter, but I did. I mean, there's kind of like you can, if you're on the outside, you can like, there are things you can kind of stand on top of that are part of the outside decorative area it's not flowing through.
Yeah.
And then you could like try to crawl your way in using some of the furniture that's around. It'd be a little difficult.
Yeah, I know, because I'm an old man. Fuck. Actually, I still see
With the door
Timber.
open, you can see Timber. If you open the door wide, you would be able to see Timber in the.
I kind of just like shut it quickly, it's like as it's like slowly like retreating back. What is the plan?
When I hear Serathil talking invisibly, I say, "I'm a bat."
You can't hear him because you can't hear or see anything.
Oh,
But I would say like with all of this happening kind of simultaneously, like the door would be open enough where Jet didn't have to do the chimney. Jet could have flown in through the crack in the door that Timber got through. So you would be seeing everything Timber's seeing, and you'd see Timber. I imagine Timber is like 1 foot on a piece of furniture, the two arms are kind of holding against a corner of a wall, kind of like looking around.
I'm responding to Serathil. Based on Kieran's last words, something in the basement. He's disappeared. The black water seems to be like a quicksand, maybe another dimension. I don't know. You might have a better understanding than I. But the objective is the basement, as of right now.
Is there so there's a door to the basement right now, right?
Correct. Yes.
That's the problem. Can I cast a spell through Jet at a range of touch and cast a cantrip? I guess it has to be a touch spell, right? I don't really have any touch spells.
Vizik, why don't you wait for me to open? Jet, hold on. Jet, come on, stop flying into the door. Reopen it.
Jet's just like hitting the door. Timber, you have,
to, like, open the knob.
I can mage hand. Can I mage hand the door open?
You also have boots of levitation.
Oh yeah, I'm very aware. I
just realized that right now. That is the the trump item to have for a Flora's Lava encounter. Yeah, you can mage hand the door. It opens up. It's not locked. There's no light. It's just pitch black. And you can just hear kind of like once the door is open, you can just hear the trickling of water going down.
I should be able to see everything. Like a double sight.
Oh, that's right. You do have double sight. Okay. Oh, that's actually okay. So you have double sight. So the room actually looks. I forgot about that. The room actually looks a little different to you than everyone else. Then.
Okay.
So you could definitely see into the basement, and you can see like the typical like stairway leading down. You can see though on the walls, the stone walls of this hall that leads into the basement, there are what at first look like roots, but then you can kind of see them undulating a little, kind of like tentacles. In all of the darkness that Kieran had noticed before in the corners, where it was like impossible to look through it, you see writhing root-like tentacles that are splayed out kind of like a fungal growth. That
Arteries.
Like arteries, yeah. And they seem to be emanating this darkness.
Oh. Well, Timber just wishes he couldn't see that, but I guess what I'll do is wait, did Kieran tell us that magic carpet was purchased by him?
Yeah, he did tell you that.
Yeah.
Can I just take a
magic carpet.
quick little perception check to see if I can find?
Yeah, go ahead and give me a perception check.
Sean. So the bat just sees blackness, because he
Yeah,
doesn't.
the bat. If with blind sight, the bat would be able to understand the shape of the hallway. But
But,
visually,
like,
they would just see darkness.
So yeah, echolocation doesn't reveal anything.
Oh, downward? No. It just you can essentially he sees like echolocation wise sees the track of the hallway that leads down into the basement.
All right. Well, Jet's a goddamn hero, so he's gonna go straight down that hallway.
Okay. As he goes down the hallway and you're looking through him, you would see in that space, the room seems to be almost completely inundated with that magical darkness, except for the center, where you would see the bone and flesh spiral with the single burnt out candle in the middle. And that's it. There's no Curon or Scarlet in there.
Is there?
You can see like some water leaking through the ceiling, the black water, and it is kind of spreading out into the room, almost like it's connecting with the darkness that's there.
Is there any safe place that's like not like any floor part of the floor or furniture that like somebody can like stand in this room without?
Yeah, so there
water?
is like ripped apart and trashed like crates in there from storage that someone could like kind of difficultly but maneuver on, and Jet could also rest on those easily.
Wiswick dispels his invisibility and looks at Sarathil and dispels his jet vision. Looks at Sarathil and says, "I can get us in there, but as we go, you gotta be careful. Don't touch any of the black liquid, and it's gonna be real dark. So maybe bring a flashlight or, a candle or something."
Let me resolve my perception check first.
Yeah, you should do that.
What'd you get for a perception check?
Sadly, 17.
17?
17.
Yeah, you'd probably have to do some investigating to find it with that, because you're almost certain it's probably in the dining room somewhere. You would just have to dig through stuff. Something you inside folk would notice is that the water is stopped like increasing. Like there's not more water flowing. And you can start to see the water starting to seep into the floor through the cracks, and now seems to be gathering in the basement. Elsewhere, Timber, or not Timber, fuck. I haven't made that mix up in a while between Timber and Huron. Huron, you slink through this space. I need you to roll me a d4. Scarlet, you also need to roll me a d4.
That's 4.
Also 4.
Okay, well, the good thing is you're together.
Reunited and
Oh,
it
good.
feels
So good.
You don't like fall. Like as soon as you're through the dark liquid and you feel like surrounded by like you almost feel like you're in underwater for a moment before you feel yourself almost like feather fall down. You're falling through a ceiling. You almost feel stretched thin before you're kind of re-apparated. You're falling like down like this, like horizontal, like you're floating in water. And when the darkness clears, the first thing you see is that the ceiling of this room you're in now is covered in hanging masks.
Oh,
Like
shit.
just like masks hanging from like rope on the ceiling. You can't see the ceiling. You just see innumerable masks hanging there.
Pallid.
They're actually they are like people. They look like they've been painted to look like people. And there's a lot of them. Like you do see some that look kind of like pallid in nature, like they're just plain masks of a pale wood. But there's most of them look like they're carved masks of people. All sorts of different races. You see elves, dragonborn, anything you can think of is up there. And you land on the floor is just sort of like this red carpet, and then like wallpapered walls that have that are just sort of like decorative like vines. It's very, weirdly enough, lovely. It looks like a very nice room. There are wall sconces with oil lanterns that are kind of just burning dimly. There are 2 doors, one on the left wall and one on the wall that you're facing. The only thing in the room other than these masks is a tall, full-length mirror that is like beautifully ornate. It has like a frame that is carved of many layers and floral iconography, and just ostentatious mirror. And it just looks dark right now, the reflection. But you two are there together.
Your Honor, you're right.
Yes. Are you?
I think so.
We both got pulled into that black ilk.
Yeah. But as soon as I saw you go in, I didn't want you to go alone.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the sentiment, but well, 2 heads is better as one than 2 heads is better than one. So let's put our heads together and figure out just where in Aradun we are.
If we're even still there. Should we look in the mirror? Or should we try the doors? Or just wait? Do we see Brom?
No.
Okay. What do you think?
Huh. Well. Do you want to give me 10 minutes while I ritual cast detect magic, or do you think we should be a little quicker about this?
I think we should be a little quicker.
That's fair. I guess I'm not Wiswick after all. Well, let's see what's in the mirror. And Kieran walks to the mirror and motions for Scar to join him as he looks into it.
Yep. I'll stand next to him as we both look in the mirror.
Wisdom saving throws. Please.
Yeah, I knew it!
24.
15.
Okay, so you both pass, actually. It's not a super high DC. What you see in the mirror is yourselves, but you have no faces. You have no ears, you have no eyes, you have no mouths, you have no noses. It's just a blank face, almost as if just like all the skin grew over those parts. And you can.
Does my arm move if I go up to touch it?
Yep.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes, I feel this is how those masks may have been made. Did you feel that when we looked into it? Did we? Sorry, I shouldn't. I just assumed if we had to make a roll.
Yeah, you do feel. Yeah, you would definitely understand with that victory that something was trying to do
Right.
something to you.
It almost felt as if the mirror was trying to pull us, our faces. Well, my face. I assume you felt the same.
Yes, I did. What do we do now?
Well, Kieran turns. How many doors did you say there are?
There are two,
Right.
but as you turn and say that, you hear your own voices echoed back to you, speaking in unison from your reflections, and you can see the skin moving where the mouth would be, as if the mouth is underneath the skin. And you would hear both of you saying in unison, in a droning voice that echoes with like an undercurrent of a deeper voice. That says, "Quench my thirsts from what floweth first. Rise above falling stars, and unlocked my beating heart, and return such to me, and then you will see that a liar I am."
Do you have that in a text?
Yeah, I can post it.
Thank you. Like a liar.
You start to see across the walls is a shadow that seems to move across them, and you hear a low rumbling growl from that shadow as the room gets darker and seems to shake violently for a moment. You hear the masks like clanging together, just like that sound of wood on wood, as you see your reflections are not mimicking you anymore, and they one is pointing to the one door and the other is pointing to another door.
I produce flame as it got darker.
It looks like once you produce flame, it looks like the wallpaper is bleeding that black liquid.
What is happening?
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
So, sorry, little meta question. If I were to cast Banishment on, say, Scarlet, if we're on a different plane of existence, would that, I assume, send her back to the material plane of existence, correct?
I suppose if you are on another plane
Right.
of existence, that logic makes sense to me.
Okay.
Don't do it.
Well, I mean, you would just be sent to a harmless demi-plane for a
For a
minute.
minute.
It's not like it's a big deal.
And then you return to the material plane if you're on another plane right now.
Right.
Yeah, but wouldn't she return where she was, which means she'd just fall in the water again and come back?
Potentially.
Potentially.
The
The room is getting much darker. The lights are flickering. There's light coming from the mirror in the sense that you can see yourself still in there.
Scarlet, I'm gonna try something to get us to safety. Be ready to catch yourself and avoid the black liquid again. And Kieran's going to cast Banishment on her.
So I mean, you can resist it if you want, or do you accept it?
I mean, I don't want to leave Kieran by himself.
I can cast it on myself in a second. That's
Okay. All right, fine.
You need to do the full concentration?
no.
That works.
It would no matter what. If we're on the material plane still, she's gonna come back here,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. If they're still on the material plane, then at the end of the minute she'll just pop back where she was in front of Kieran.
Right. So if I cast it on her and we're not, she'll return to the material plane, and then I don't need to hold the concentration anyways. So
Exactly. Okay. So Kieran, as you're doing this, you would notice like the liquid that pours down from during this minute, the liquid that's bleeding from the walls, it's not like pooling in the same way that it did in the previous room. It is starting to collect into an actual livable, like an ooze, as you start to see these things just sort of, and they kind of have like somewhat humanoid shapes, as if they're dragging themselves out of the ground. And you can see kind of like their head kind of comes up, and you just hear them loud.
I imagine that Kieran at this point is backing up, like, very quickly, and he is counting in his head: 1 by the Cressitot, 2 by the Cressitot, 3 by the Cressitot, 4 by the Cressitot, to a minute, because I actually realized he does need to keep it for a minute so that she remains on the material.
Exactly, yeah. While you're doing that, you would see like Scarlet's reflection still in the mirror with you. And you hear them saying, you hear that unified voice again saying, "Oh, but only through a door you can escape for a brief moment."
30 by the Cressitot, 31 by the Cressitot, 32 by the Cressitot.
These things are just like slowly moving closer to you at this point. And they're gonna go for an attack on you.
Oh no!
All right, first one. Natural 1.
Dope.
Second one. They have multi-attack? No, they don't. Second one is 14, so that doesn't hit, I presume. So you watch them, and they kind of like, they're like struggling to manifest. And as they do, they like, you see these like pseudopods come out to swipe at you, and you're just kind of like blocking them all. One does kind of like hit your armor for a moment. You're wearing plate armor, right?
I'm actually still wearing the chainmail, so I don't.
Cool. Then nothing happens.
Okay.
But they're like surrounding you now.
Are we in dim light?
Yes, I would say yes.
Steps of the night to like climb up and like start to like hide amongst, the masks.
Yeah. And as you like get up to the mask, you can see the creatures. They kind of like are like reaching up towards your feet. Granted, it's definitely high enough that you can you're out of their range. And you're kind of like in the masks at this point, and it's you kind of look around and you just see these like smiling or like frowning or crying faces that look so realistic. And then a few just like blank faces that are staring at you. But you complete the count.
Yes. 60 by the Cressitot.
Scarlet reappears in the room. Scarlet, you kind of drop down and you see these 2 Ickers reaching up for Kieran, trying to attack him as he's kind of like floating amongst the masks. And you hear the voices again say, "Through the doors, and you'll find reprieve. But not forever. He still comes for you."
Kieran
will drop down next to Scarlet and says, "Pick a door. It's hostile. Sorry about that."
Left door.
Left door, okay. You go through the door, and as you go through the door, you kind of come to the other side, and it's just like an immediate sense of relief as the shaking of the room and the weeping walls and the moaning of the Icker stops entirely, and you're in an entirely new room. This room is filled with treasures, it looks like, and furniture. You can see like urns all over the place, as well as like statues with like depicting like animals. Like there's a lot of frogs with like open mouths, and you see a lot of just like depictions of creatures either with open mouths or holding out basins, and they go all up the walls to kind of crest together at the ceiling. In the middle of the room, you see a fountain is in the middle of the room, kind of like a stone pillar that has a stone basin at the top. And you can see there's water in it, and there is kind of a cup there of stone. You can see also mixed with these pots and pans and whatnot are what look very much so like mounds of flesh with mouths all over them that are just sort of like gibbering, one might say, and are just like open, and they're like their lips are kind of smacking together, parched and completely torn apart almost, as if they're voracious for water. And that's the room you're in. We're gonna cut back to everyone out upstairs. You all notice the water seeping through the floors at this point, to the point where you can safely walk on the floors, most likely, as the water is all kind of seeped into the basement.
Do you guys have a method to fly in here? You're muted.
I got nothing to say. I can't even hear you. You're in the. I just say.
I'm right outside the door. I'm in the main room, but
he just said that the water seeped in through the floor, so it's walkable now.
Yeah, you can walk on the floors now.
All right. I didn't know if it was completely gone. All right, yeah.
Well, I guess that's what I was trying to say, but I was muted. Is that Saratho's gonna just examine quickly, make sure that it's all water, maybe go down and tap it, make sure it's hard.
Yeah, because the water didn't completely just sort of touching the water didn't suck you in. It was sort of a check for when the ground fell out beneath you.
Right.
Dexterity check. And the ground seems solid again, essentially.
So I'll enter the room. You said there's a basement we need to discover.
That's what
head to.
That's what Kiran said. If all that liquid is down there, though, I don't know how safe it is to travel. Kiran did mention before we entered the house that he procured a magic carpet, which we learned earlier, that is a floating one. So if you guys can find that, we might be able to get into the basement. I don't want to go there by myself.
I could get over there with Dimension Door. I can just teleport myself there using
in the
Jet.
basement?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but then what do you stand on? It's all
Right.
probably filled with water.
Jet found a spot.
Well,
How
hold
you
on.
gonna get vision of it?
Is the basement
That's-
door visible, Sean?
Yes.
I will open the door.
It's already open.
Oh, okay, then.
Timber opened it with his mage hand.
But
Well, then look-
we can't see into it, right?
Yeah, it does. Not anymore. Now the magical darkness seemed to. It's like the water kept flowing down, and once the water had flowed down completely, the darkness seemed to go with it.
Okay, so looking down, you could see just the stairs trailing down, and then water just pooled on the floor down there.
Yeah.
I guess
I got a wacky plan. If you guys don't have any other ideas.
I mean, my idea right now is to go down alone, but I'm always open to your wacky plan. What is your plan?
You know, it would be so much more fun if I just did it.
So Sarthos gonna start looking for a magic carpet in the rooms.
I'll allow you guys to all go searching for that, but as you start to search through the mess that is in that space, looking for the magic carpet, and as Scarlet and Kiran kind of both look up at this strange chamber. By the way, the other thing in this chamber is I forgot to mention this, there's sand all over the ground as well, and from certain pots and pans and stuff, there's sand just pouring endlessly out. But I'm gonna say that's for an end tonight because it's past 10 o'clock.
Can I cast the spell before we end?
I'll let you cast the spell. What was the spell you cast again?
I'm gonna cast 7th level reverse gravity on the entire building.
Okay, I'm gonna resolve that next session.
Yeah.
Reverse gravity.
That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot. All right, folks. that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. I forgot that I have things to say about our upcoming programming. So thank you for sticking around with us tonight. Absolutely join us for programming throughout the week. The next programming is going to be on Wednesday this week for Relaxing in Paradise at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then there's going to be the Sean and Shannon Power Hour on Sundays at 7 p.m. And then a few things to note. Villagers is out, which has 2 NPC disguised villains written by our very own Stefan in there, as well as 25 or 23 other NPCs in there. So check that out on DM's Guild. It's called Villagers. It's from our friends over at Plot Hooks. And there's not going to be any scales above this week, but the week after, Shannon and I will be playing in a 3-shot over there that I will be DMing on scales on Roll for Damage. So go check that out. And we will see you all then and there. But we're going to end the stream now, and we will see you all soon. Say goodbye, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Bye.